Hello, good morning, and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes. It is Saturday, the 18th of January, 2025. Don't always do a Morning Brew at the weekend, but when we do, it's always great. I was going to do some Lego this morning, but I thought it's a bit of a strange time to build Lego, so I'm going to do that at 6 o'clock tonight. If you want to join me from 6 till 7, we'll be building more Lego. But in the meantime, I'm going to be talking about Gaza and the ceasefire and Israel and Trump and Biden and other things that are happening in the world right now. Sarah, hello. And also we've got Anthony, we've got Anne, we've got One Angry Pagan, we've got Gareth T in the chat, we've got Richard Marsden, Simon Smith, we've got Cathal in there. Hi, Cathal. If you would like to join them in the chat, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and wait for about a minute, and then you'll be able to join them. Don't troll. Don't be a dick. You won't get silenced. Yeah. Help. I've been cancelled. I will cancel you. I have the power. Anyway, so last night, just after 11 o'clock our time, the Israeli Parliament, the Israeli cabinet agreed to this ceasefire. This has been negotiated for over a year now between the Israeli forces and Hamas in Gaza. And so the first 42 days, it's a 42-day truce that's going to commence tomorrow. And it will include the release of 33 hostages of the almost 100 hostages that are still being held by Hamas. And we don't know how many of them are alive, how many are dead. But the important thing to remember in this is still all very much a political game. What's going to happen in the next 42 days or the next 16 days, let's just look at the first 16 days of this. Humanitarian aid is going to be able to get into Gaza at volume, at a strength that it has not been able to up to this point. And the thing is, it looks from an outsider's point of view that Israel has the upper hand here. They have, the Assad regime, the Iran-backed Assad regime in Syria has fallen. Hezbollah has collapsed and it's had its leaders taken out. It's effectively decapitated, and its political wing has voted to disarm any militia groups in Lebanon, which would include Hezbollah, famously who had a AK-47 on their flag, a bit like Mozambique. But yeah, don't agree with weaponry on flags. I think you can get away with the odd spear, or the odd sword. In the case of Kenya or Sri Lanka, a lion holding a sword's pretty cool. But generally speaking, weaponry on flags, still preferable to a tricolour. It's free colours. Look at the free colours. Look at the pretty free colours. No, do something interesting. Anyway, vexology aside, so there's that. There's been Israeli strikes on Iran, which have taken out certain Iranian figures, to which Iran hasn't really had the power to fight back. And even the Houthi rebels the Houthi faction, the Houthi faction in Yemen has got behind this deal. So it does look like, and that's all of the friends of Hamas. So Hamas can't rely on anyone, it's got no one around it. Also, the fact that Gaza is just rubble now. The cities there, Rafah and elsewhere, just there's nothing there. There's nothing left. Like 100% of the buildings are damaged, and so many of them are just destroyed. The rebuilding effort is going to take a long, long time. 1.8 million people displaced by this conflict. And as much as I hate everything that the Israelis have done, I have a special burning hatred in my heart for Hamas, because they made this happen. They did this on purpose. They knew what would happen if they went ahead with their terrorist acts on October the 7th and then took hundreds of hostages and held them. They knew what Israel would do. And it would be the people of Gaza who suffered the most. I mean, everyone suffers in that area, but the people of Gaza would suffer the most, and they didn't care. They just, they're not good people. But do you know who's also not good people? The people running Israel at the moment. Benjamin Netanyahu is a complete gobshite. Their national security minister, Ben Gvir, is I mean, this is a man so horrific that he was chucked out of the army for being a bit too right wing, and he's now in the government. He said he's said he's gonna quit because of this ceasefire negotiation. But just to go back to Netanyahu, the interesting thing here is that a year ago, well, I'd say interesting, that's not the right word to use. The shit thing here, the really shitty thing, right, that Netanyahu's done, he was given the option to pursue this particular ceasefire. This ceasefire where a number of Israeli hostages were released and a number of Hamas prisoners were released by Israel. And he had that option a year ago to pursue this. And he said, no, like some unionist of old. And it just fucks me off so much that so many people have died. And we waited a year while people have suffered. Children, mothers, fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers have suffered so much. 50,000 people dead in Gaza, and for the result of what we could have had a year ago. We could have had this a year ago. But politics, and sometimes when I'm asked why I don't go into politics, I say because I hate it, and this is why I hate it. I just hate that fact that all those people had to die for no reason to get to exactly where we are now. You know, I'm going to climb that mountain tomorrow. Okay, cool. Oh no, but first I need to kill all these people. Okay, don't know what that's got to do with climbing the mountain, but all right. And then a year later, okay, I'm going to climb the mountain now. Couldn't you climb it a year ago without killing all those people? No, I definitely had to do that first. But you're doing the same thing. You're climbing the same mountain. But we've got 42 days, hopefully, fingers crossed, of a ceasefire. I'm sure there'll be violations on both sides during the ceasefire. Whether that breaks the ceasefire or not remains to be seen. I'm worried about the war resuming after 42 days, which it certainly absolutely could. This is what the finance minister in Israel, Smotrich, is saying. He wants the war to resume after 42 days. We've got further negotiations which are scheduled to take place after day 16 of this ceasefire. It's depending on how the ceasefire goes. But there are complications now coming in America, which is generally Donald Trump and his violent unpredictability. We don't know what he might do. I mean, he is the guy who decided to relocate the capital, as far as America was concerned, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in Israel, which inflamed ethnic tensions, sectarian tensions, religious tensions, all the tensions were tensioned as a result of that. So I don't think he's going to be on the side of Hamas. I think that he's going to do whatever Saudi Arabia tell him to do. And Saudi Arabia is very much the puppet master in all this. They control Hamas, and to a certain extent, they control Israel, which is weird if you think about it, but like makes sense if you think about it in terms of they need Israel to exist. This country, almost next door to Saudi Arabia, and they don't actually share a border, but they very close. And Saudi Arabia gets away with the most atrocious human rights violations this world, this planet, has seen since probably the Middle Ages. The amount of suffering and torture that goes on in Saudi Arabia and doesn't get reported on in the West is off the charts. Why doesn't it get reported? Well, because they've got the oil. They've got the oil, and they want us to keep burning the oil at increasing rates. The amount of oil that we burn every year, or the amount of fossil fuels we burn every year, is just going up and up, and it needs to go down and down. We were already at 1.5 degrees centigrade Celsius of global warming. Global heating. Joby, and is One Angry Pagan in the chat? One Angry Pagan, tell me how many megatons of energy the asteroid was that killed the dinosaurs, and if you can work out how much how much equivalent energy we've put into our system since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. I'd like to know those energy levels because I've got the feeling that the asteroid that hit in Mexico that wiped out the dinosaurs was 100 million megatons. I think that's the figure I've got in my head for some reason. I think we've put more energy than that into our system over the last 200 years. But if one angry pig can do the maths on that, I'd really appreciate it. Ben Gavir and Smotrich can go F themselves as one angry pagan. But it's very much in Saudi Arabia's interest to play the game of whataboutery. Of, well, you think that's bad? What about what Israel have done? So the more horrific human rights atrocities Israel commits, the better it is for Saudi Arabia to play the old, but have you seen what they're doing? Have you seen what they're doing? Have you seen that? Yeah. Meanwhile, let me make this very clear. Saudi Arabia has the money, and money that it has to spend, because Saudi Arabia has more money than it knows what to do with. It's money that's depreciating. One of the reasons why they continue to do mad projects like The Line, and one of the reasons why they've taken the World Cup in 2034, why they want it, is they need to spend the money in a Brewster's Millions kind of way, because they know that money depreciates in value if it's just sitting there in a vault, whereas building things that can actually appreciate in value or whatever. So they need to spend the money. They have the money to save Gaza, to save Palestine. They have the money to push that through and make it a nice place to live for people from the Palestinian territories. They have the money to pursue whatever peace deal they want in that area. They have the money because at the end of the day, money makes the world go round and it makes wars end if you want the war to end, but they don't want the war to end. In the same way that they don't want us to do anything about climate change. And that's why they decided in the 1990s, Saudi Arabia said, we want a consensus for all the COPs that will ever take place. We're having COP 30 this year, 30, right? 30 years of this since 1995. And we're going to have this conference again where all these parties are going to come together. They're going to use it to sell fucking oil. It's going to be like all these oil magnates, all these oil barons, these filthy fuel fuckers coming together to sell some, do deals to sell more of their filthy fuel. And they said it has to be a consensus. It can't be a majority vote. It needs all 197 countries of the world all have to say in unison, yes, this is what we want. And if one country says no, then it doesn't happen. And that's why the words fossil fuels weren't included in their declaration until 2023. Not included in any declaration. The Copenhagen summit that everyone had high hopes for back in 2009, not at the COP summit in 2015 when the Paris Agreement was signed. Interestingly, the Paris Agreement that the Trump administration is going to just pull out of immediately, even though it's advisory, there's nothing compulsive about it. They're going to pull it out because they don't believe in climate change, even though, LA is on fire. You've got these dickheads off their head on ketamine or, whatever drug is their choice, fame, alcohol, going on Joe Rogan and saying there's no such thing as climate change while their house is burning down as a result of climate change. Gareth T in the chat says the one power broker who could stop all this is Jordan because they have relations with both Israel and Palestine. But Jordan still has a beef with Israel because it feels like Israel stole its territory. I mean that goes back a long way. Although there is a land border that you can cross between Jordan and Israel, which is unique. You can't cross into Syria. You can't cross into Lebanon. You cannot cross into Egypt through the Rafah crossing. Well, I suppose you could. Technically, but not as a tourist. That if you want to go to Israel overland, as I've done in the past, you have to basically get the boat from Egypt over to Jordan and then go in through Jordan over what was it, King Allenby Bridge or something? It's a very strange name, King Allenby. Allenby King? What? Anyway, so I feel like there's reason to be glad that the ceasefire has finally come about. It took too long, but at least it's here now. Okay, so we can take some solace in that. Whether it sticks around, it's a it's look at it from Netanyahu's point of view. It's a political minefield. If he has the far right saying that they don't want to be part of his coalition government anymore as a result of this deal, and then he has to go cap in hand to the opposition leader, Lapid, I think his name is. I mean, for him, it'll be like Boris Johnson going cap in hand to Jeremy Corbyn. It's just not something that will come naturally to him. I'm not saying that Lapid is anything like Jeremy Corbyn in many ways, but the internal power struggles you're going to see in Israel over the next month could either make this ceasefire permanent, or it could just blow it all out the water and we'll go back to war with 60 odd hostages, 60 odd hostages still trapped in Israel. But the hardliners just want war without end. It's their religious thing. It's on both the Jewish side and the Muslim side, there are a minority of people who just want to fight forever for who's got the best invisible friend. For those of us who don't, we don't do religion in that way. It's beyond infuriating that people use it. I genuinely believe people use religion as an excuse to do horrible things. But oh my, the horrible things they do in the name of religion. The Chicxulub impact was around 100 million megatons. Yeah, that's equivalent to 2 million SAR bombers. The amount of energy released since the Industrial Revolution is about 2,000 gigatons. Okay, you've given me megatons and gigatons. Could you just give me the number in megatons for the? Are you saying it's 100 million megatons? So that obviously 2,000 gigatons is more than that. Can you give me that number in megatons? Which isn't a ton of dynamite. It's a ton of dynamite, isn't it? So it's a megaton is a 1,000 tons of dynamite, and gigatons is I'm guessing 1 million, maybe, or what is that? I don't know what it is. So if you could help me out here, just tell me how many in million megatons One Angry Pagan, if you would, we've put into the since the Industrial Revolution, because I think that's a really good way of getting people's head around just how much energy we've put into the system in the last 200 years. We're putting increasing amounts in every year. We're not slowing down the tap going into the bath that's overflowing. We're turning the taps on more every year. Just turn it on a little bit more. So there you go. Thoughts on Trump's planning immigration raids as early as Tuesday in Chicago? Says Matthew G. I think it's going to be absolute carnage. I really sorry. 200 gigatons is 2 million megatons. That is fucking insane. I'm going to write this down. So 100 million megatons, dinosaurs wiped out. And then you're talking about 2,000 million megatons. That's 20 times global warming, global heating, global fucking disaster. 20 times the energy of the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. That is freaking insane. That is just... It's off the charts, my friends. That is just off the fucking charts. So yeah, but obviously it's in Saudi Arabia and Russia and Venezuela's and all the countries interested. Just keep, selling oil, buying oil, trading oil, going to war over oil. Don't forget, Venezuela had a referendum last year to invade its neighbor to steal its oil. Guyana. Like, yeah, let's just have a referendum. The people have spoken. You can't argue with the will of the people. The people want death. The people want battles. The people want suffering. The people want people ripped apart with bullets and bombs and landmines and stuff in pursuit of oil. And don't forget, already now Venezuela has one of the biggest supply, as one of the biggest reserves of oil in the world. Like, they have so much oil coming out of their ears, it's ridiculous. I've often said, if you go there, you can fill up your tank for $1. And I don't mean a tank of petrol in your car. I mean literally a tank in a battle that you're going to go in a battle in. Yeah, you can fill up a tank for $1. It's so cheap because they just want to burn as much fuel as possible. So people just drive around in circles all day because they've got nothing better to do, just polluting the atmosphere with CO2. Burning that carbon's not going to burn itself. It's not going to dig itself out the ground. It's not going to burn itself. It's not going to release that CO2 into the atmosphere, right? Hey, yeah, woo! And then people defend Venezuela, which has been a dictatorship for over 20 years now. They want to defend it and go, no, but it's a true socialist society. And meanwhile, the right wing go, oh, look, but this is what socialism looks like. No, it's not what socialism looks like. It's what fascism looks like. And that's what you want. A lot of the people who are, they're an example of how bad things get under socialism. They're about as socialist as the Nazis, who famously called themselves the National Socialist German Workers' Party. And they weren't really into the socialist bit. It was just a con to get people who are a little bit harder thinking on their side. Go, no, we're just like you. We're just like you. We're just like you. That doesn't account for the energy transferred across the planet and magnified, though, Graham. Yeah, I know, but it'll do. It'll do if I'm talking to someone. Like, I think I told you this, but last week I was at a meeting and there was an environmentalist there, and he was talking for a very, very long time about the water currents, the warm water currents that come up from the Gulf of Mexico. And he was using all the correct scientific terminology and talking about how many points in degrees Celsius that this country, Britain, will decrease over the years. It'll get colder and colder. And it honestly took about, I don't know, 3 minutes, 4 minutes of our time to tell us all this. I mean, it's stuff I already knew. And then at the end of it, I was just like, can we? Well, I didn't say it. Someone else said, can we put that in a nutshell? Is there a way that we can encapsulate that very, very quickly? To which I put up my hand and said, do you know that we live on the same line of latitude as Siberia? And he went, no. I went, you will. And that's it. There you go. You need these ways of getting through to people in a way that they, can digest and understand in our little squishy human brains that aren't designed to cope with big numbers. 20 times the energy of the big bastard asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. That'll do. But yes, and people can get their heads around that. Okay, the dinosaurs got wiped out? Yeah, because of all the energy that was released into dust. But yeah, wasn't good. It was cataclysmic. Killed 99.9% of all the species on the planet at the time. And just a few little things remained, a few things survived around the world. They did survive in the sea, and some things that could burrow underground that didn't really need the sunlight could survive for a few years without much sunlight. And there was probably a little shrew-like creature that became the mitochondrial Eve of all of mammals. That must have happened at some point. Anyway, so back to Israel. The ceasefire might collapse. Israel's leadership could be thrown into further turmoil. All of this hinges on the fact that Netanyahu doesn't want to go to jail for his many crimes, just like Trump. He wants to get away with murder, literally, just like Trump. And whether Netanyahu can survive all this is unknown. It depends on a lot of factors, not least the internal political ramifications in Israel. But I don't think that looking back, once this horrific episode is over, I don't think that the Israeli government can really say, yes, this was a success. I mean, they can point to things and say, oh, I got rid of, Assad well, we didn't get rid of him, but, he was gotten rid of. In Syria, we've neutered Hezbollah, we've done this, we've done that. But the question is this, and I've spoken about this before on the show. Is Israel a place where Jewish people feel safe? If the answer to that question is no, then Israel is, I wouldn't say has failed, because it's a bit daft to talk about countries as, failures, because a failed state sounds like there's no hope for the future. So at the moment, it is failing to do its one job. It had one job, Israel, and that was to give Jewish people who suffered not just the Holocaust, obviously we talk about that, but pogroms over the years. Obviously, famously, there was the Jewish people who were expelled from Russia at the turn of the 20th century. And before then, 1492, Jews and Muslims were expelled from what's now Spain. Before them, in the 1300s, Jews were expelled from Britain, or England at least. And this has happened, it's happened again and again and again. So it was to give these people a homeland where they could feel safe. And since 1947, they haven't felt safe because they've been constantly at war with their neighbours. And unfortunately, the war mentality bleeds into the way people think. And if people experience violence, and we see this time and time again around the world, if people experience violence, it normalizes it. So people who grow up in violent households are more likely to commit violence themselves when they grow up. People because it's normalized, people who grow up in civil wars are more likely to sexually assault. They're more likely to, fight people, more likely to get into fights later in life as a result of seeing violence in the past and think, your brain, your stupid, squishy little brain decides that that's the way to solve a problem is by violence. And I've never subscribed to that. I've been very, very lucky, and I understand my privilege in life, having not been in those situations, having not ever been desensitized to violence in that way. But at the same time, it's like, there's a lot of people who aren't like that. And the people in Israel and the people in Palestine have all known violence. And what is particularly upsetting about this is you've now got another generation of kids in Gaza who have grown up with the most horrific acts of violence. They've seen a house collapse on their mother. They've had to bury their siblings. They've had to carry bodies, on carts across the bombed out town square. The amount of mental suffering that those people are going to go through for the rest of their lives as a result of this, the trauma that they have been put through, is unconscionable. And it will make them think that as they grow up, that violence is a way of solving things. And vengeance is a very powerful emotion in people. But as the famous Chinese, I think, proverb goes, the person who pursues vengeance should start by digging 2 graves, which I thought was very, very well put. The Chicxulub impact released around 425 gigatons of CO2. Oh, that just disappeared. Thanks for that. Oh, no, it didn't. Yes, it did. It disappeared. I was trying to read it and it disappeared. Good morning, all, says Reagan Elite. Hello, Reagan Elite. I'm getting off now, mate. Not because you're here. Because that's really bad, isn't it? Reagan Elite says, hi, Graham. And I'm like, right, I'll finish the show. But yeah. Okay, One Angry Pagan's corrected something. The Chicxulub, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Impact released around 425 gigatons of CO2 into the atmosphere compared to 2,000 from Klimcha, but the impact raised global temperatures by 5 degrees over a couple of months and lasted for 100,000 years. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's it. Lasted 100,000 years. And we are in a situation now where in my lifetime, in the last 45 years, we have put so much CO2 into the atmosphere. In my lifetime, we've put 75% of the CO2 that we've added to the atmosphere into the atmosphere. So all the time from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution to 1979, 25%, 75% after that. With it, it's just number go up. And climate change denialism is going to be rife over the next few years. And Saudi Arabia and Russia will have got what they wanted, which is for everyone to be completely dependent on their disgusting, dirty, cancerous, disgraceful, planet-killing, human-killing, society-killing, animal-killing, life-killing, black shit that they want us to buy and burn. There you go. Sorry, spelling error. 2,000 gigatons. I read that. Did I not read that? Okay. Compared to 2,000 gigatons. Yeah. That's right. Okay, listen. I'm going to get off now. I'm going to come back at 6 o'clock tonight to do a bit more on me Lego. I'll do that at 6 o'clock tonight, and then I'm going to watch Legally Blonde too. So yeah, I'm going to do this bit here, and maybe I'll do this bit if I'm quick of my Lego globe, which is coming on quite nicely. If I do that, it looks like I'm nearly there. See, it's got Graham on the top. Can you see little Graham on the top? Little Graham. Hello. I'm little. Okay, so I'm going to get off now. But thank you very much for joining me this morning. Just get you out of bed, doesn't it? But yeah, I'm glad that this ceasefire has finally happened. I'm sad that it's taken so long. I'm cautiously hopeful that it'll stick, and in 42 days the next phase of this plan goes into effect. More hostages are released, more aid gets into Gaza. I'm hoping that that's the case. What actually happens remains to be seen, and if Trump is too busy killing his own people in Chicago in his morning raids, then he might not pay attention to what's happening in Israel. And the Israeli government would love that, because it means they get to continue doing what they're doing with impunity, which is sad. Anyway, so yeah, we live in hope. It's not the despair that gets you, it's the hope. But anyway, thank you very much. Thanks very much to Power to the People, Ginny and Hope, Jane Lockwood, Owen Aggie Pagan, obviously. Thanks for the maths there, mate, the science. Reagan Elite, thanks very much for coming on. One of my many birthday wishes is we have peace in the Middle East. Oh, happy birthday, mate! Oh, happy birthday! I didn't realise it was your birthday. And George Dawes says we destroyed more than half the planet's carbon-absorbing rainforest. Yeah, we're hitting tipping points left, right, and centre, and it's very, very, very disturbing. And the climate change denialists are running riot, and I'm going to be absolutely zero tolerance over the next few years if I see a Facebook post that I feel is denying climate change or coming up with some ridiculous way of combating it that isn't just stopping using oil, which is how we and coal and gas. That's how we combat climate change, and some daft thing about hydrogen or daft thing about carbon storage or some other white greenwashing shit. I'm just going to defend people. That's it. That's my policy now. You're just going to get defended. You can follow me if you like. I just don't want to hear anything else that you've got to say. You can listen to me. I don't care. Or not, go your own way. There's going to be a lot of disinformation over the next few years. We're going to drown in disinformation on social media. And yeah, not going to be much fun. Do you know what I might do tomorrow? I might do something different tomorrow, since the last day of TikTok in the States. I might do a live broadcast on my camera here for YouTube, but at the same time, I'll set my phone up next to my camera with streaming on YouTube and streaming on TikTok, doing a live stream on TikTok for the first time ever. I'll probably get 2 viewers, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Right, so thank you very much. I'll see you at 6 o'clock tonight, maybe. If not, I'll try and do another show tomorrow morning at 9:30. It just depends how I feel. So look out for that, and then we'll segue magnificently into Alex's Political X Sunday roast, which I hope is tomorrow. If he's doing well. I assume he is. Anyway, here you go. Here's some new credits that I've made. Hope your name's on it. If your name's not on it, just become a member, and then your name can be on it. Or become a patron, and then your name can be on it. So if you want to add your name to the credits, now's the time to do it. Until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.